All right. Thank you.
Four-letter word fishermen know all too well. Wind powered early ocean travel and exploration. Where would we be today without wind? Offshore wind development is a hot topic in 2023. On this episode of Wind and Sea, we learn about the Block Island Wind Farm, America's first offshore wind project.
Since 2016, that's when they started to operate. 2016 has only operated 30% of the time.
The only turbines in New England currently are the 5 Block Island wind farm turbines.
The energy that comes out of Block Island is costing at least 6 times more than the energy would have cost without that. That's 6 times the cost. And it escalates at 3% per year by contract.
Who put the turbines up?
Deepwater Wind, when it started, then it was sold to Ørsted.
They are in state waters, and they were sited using a state process that is very different from the federal offshore wind process.
Block Island is a small project, tiny project. What are we talking? 30 megawatts? We're talking about 1.3 thousand megawatts? Tiny compared to what we're going to do here. So whatever problems you have in Block Island, multiply them by 50.
But the cable.
I like cooking bacon in the microwave. It's very safe. It's something that I can just pop in.
The cables where they come in are really serious too. I mean, in Block Island, it took them almost 6 years to put a cable in properly and then sink it because they kept unearthing. And it took a huge procedure, and Block Island taxpayers got put on the line for, I think, another $30 million to fix this.
You don't want to drill into the hard soils and the rocks and stuff like that, so they lay them on the ground thinking that it was going to be okay. The company that built it but didn't want the cost to go to them. They wanted the cost to be put back to the repairs.
Apparently it wasn't built with the best construction techniques because they've had a hard time keeping them running. They tried to convince us of the fact that 4 of them not turning for 3 months at a time is scheduled maintenance.
Maintenance on those turbines is extremely costly. I mean, you have to go up there, you have to re-lubricate it, you have to fix the blades and so on and so forth. And they're finding out as time goes on, that's been very costly.
I don't think these things will be durable. I mean, the ocean erodes granite walls of rock, you know? And these things are nothing more than generators up on a stick. Well, they are.
It doesn't work a lot because there's not a lot of money for maintenance. Because the company that put them in said, well, we learned a lot of stuff from that, we'll not make these mistakes again, but now they're going to build whole new, different kinds of plants. They're going to be much larger.
We've seen a few less of this, a few more of that. But since then, it has changed drastically in that area. To the point where some of the guys don't bother going there anymore. Basically, the guys who used to fish there a lot, Lobster and Gilman, is that they say it's turned into a dead zone in that area.
Rhode Island is the ocean state. Do you feel like Rhode Island is looking out for the ocean?
Not right now. You don't destroy the environment to save the environment.
Where they put them is one of the most vibrant areas that existed on Block Island.
We are building it without regard for traditional fishing grounds, and we are building it without regard for safety at sea. As the Coast Guard has already demonstrated, they are unwilling to fly helicopters in and around wind turbines to perform a rescue. We lost a boat 2 years ago on New Year's Eve. Oscar Diaz, the mistress, went down. It was a foggy, windy, rainy night. They went out, attempted rescue, and were called back by the powers that be, and they let those men drown. So now we have 1,500 square miles of effectively a no rescue zone. The helicopters don't have radars any better than ours. One of our friends was a dear friend of the pilot. He didn't understand why they get called back. After the dust settled, everyone surmised that the wind initiative, a presidential decree, couldn't take the black eye of a helicopter crashing into a wind turbine.
over here is somewhere where I picked up the depth charge.
500 and something pounds of dynamite was in these things. This thing's only as big as like a beer keg. There's a pretty good chance that when they were doing their plowing for the cable and stuff, that it took this thing up out of the sediment.
There's also going to be detonation of UXO.
The idea was to either get a direct hit or close enough so that it blew the seams apart in the sub and then sank it. You gotta dig up a lot of stuff when they're putting all these cables into shore.
Generations of fishermen have learned where we can and can't tow on nets out around Block Island. And now that's all changed. They dug that depth charge out of the bottom and moved it over to where we tow. Well, Glenn would have caught it years ago. If not, he tows the same place every day. And there was a wreck there that we've been towing around for years. It was in pieces all over the place. I caught it twice. I caught the wheelhouse once. I caught the stern transom with the transmissions in it. You know, destroyed a net, and it took us a couple of days to fix it. So it cost us, each time it cost us 2 days fishing. So they're gonna change all this knowledge that we've accumulated for years and years.
These five are a fright for everyone going past the island. You know, a half a mile apart seems like a long way, but it's not at night. There's not when it's foggy. There's not when it's rough.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is physical products. It's Amazon's other company.
Or it's not when there's two of them. They're ominous. Right. They can't keep their running lights on. I've had to call the Coast Guard on a bunch of times and get them to wake somebody up and have them turn the lights on in the middle of the night so we don't run in.
We basically had the ocean to ourselves for a long time.
When they finished completing the towers and they represented no more than raw vertical structure, we had a tremendous year catching codfish around the base of the turbines, trolling nets back and forth around them. And we caught a lot of codfish. Then the year that they electrified them, the very next year, I went from catching 20,000 or 30,000 pounds of cod for the winter to catching 100 pounds.
I know that lobstermen that fish in that area in Rhode Island, because it is in state waters, say that the lobsters are gone. And it may be Andrew Gill and Dr. King, I forget his first name, from URI, did a study about EMF, the electromagnetic frequency coming out of the cables, and how it affected the lobster industry, and whether or not they used cages, I believe, the documents online, and they put a cable through that area, and the lobsters were willing to cross, but they stayed in the very farthest area once they crossed of the cage. And the question is, did they want to get out of the area? But they couldn't, so they got as far away from it as they could.
I don't know how they justified that, but they sold the ocean.
Ocean lease areas have been sold for future wind farm construction, from New England waters to the Carolinas. Some fishermen say the East Coast is at stake. Some fishermen say it's too late.